Um, the next question, my child hates to write. How do I get them to write? Robin?
Well, I think it starts with having some fun things to do. I'll give you, for example, when my daughter was little, I had a small notebook, and it was a furry notebook. It's just really cute. And I'd write a note to her in that notebook with a fuzzy pen too, and I'd tuck it under her pillow. And then she'd write a note back to me, and that would just go back and forth. And I made sure to correct any spelling that she was using, not by crossing it out and writing the correct spelling, but by using it in a sentence I wrote back to her. So it was just a fun little thing back and forth. And if I forgot to put it under a pillow, trust me, she let me know. Now, for my son, who didn't really much care for writing, we did letters to grandparents and friends. We did some copy work so he could see what good writing looks like. And he just never really picked up on writing being something he would enjoy doing. But it also helps for them to see you doing it to some extent. So if you could show them how you could write something out, and that will help them to see how it's done as well. But try something different, not just the same old workbook. Try something different. Literature response. Instead of just tell me about the character, you could ask the question, how are you like the main character? Instead of what is the setting of the story? If the setting were changed in the story to, and then you could choose something else, how would it change the story? So it gets them thinking more deeply than just answering a basic question. And not always correcting everything, just writing for writing's sake.
I have a suggestion for those who are distracted by their own writing. David, who's my oldest, he is 17 and just graduated. Yay. He is in Civil Air Patrol, and part of the requirements that they were doing for promoting up the leadership ranks was to write a speech. So he had to write a speech about something, and he sat down to write it and basically just kept getting, like, his eyes seeing all those words on the page kept interrupting his thoughts. So what I had him do was sit across from me at the table, and he just spoke to me what he wanted to say, and then I typed it out for him, and then I printed it off and let him edit it all. So he took care of it after that. So the initial thoughts sometimes just need to come from a place of non-distraction, just in a stream of consciousness, just to get the idea out. Edit it later. But sometimes you need to figure out if your child is distracted by something, actually has a reason why they can't just sit there and just write down these sentences or these paragraphs or put them all together so they make sense. Sometimes they need just a little bit of extra help for getting it done.
Yes, and another way of doing that is having them record, say, their creative writing story on your phone, and then they can play it back and write it out so that they're not distracted by that writing process, the getting the punctuation correct, getting the spelling correct, but just getting the idea down, like you were saying, Angel.
Right. Or videotape. I mean, you have a phone, let them like record themselves like this so they can see maybe the expressions on their faces and then write that in as well. You know, I'm weird like this, but when I'm reading, sometimes if things strike me in a book, I'll say it out loud like I think that person would. I get a lot of looks from my people here, but I don't care. But sometimes that's helpful because it gives you a slightly different perspective, and that can help too.
Right. Next question. I do not, or my kids don't want to get up and do school at 8 in the morning. Do we have to?
No. I have 2 early birds and one that we're lucky if he's up by 10. And the 10 a.m. riser should not be expected to hop up at 8 and do a full math lesson. It just ain't gonna happen. So you just got, again, this is all homeschooling is all about getting to know the people that live in your house and like really get in their brain. And if the 7:30 a.m. waker upper is raring to go, have schoolwork for him to do. If the other one wants to stay up until 10 to do his writing assignment, why not? I mean, obviously, you know, for their age or whatever, they need bedtimes and just, you know, for their development or whatever. But every adult human is different and does not like to wake up at the crack of dawn. So that goes to say that your kids would be the same way.
I have a couple of extra things to say about that too. We are, you know, I've said this several times, we're a homeschool family. Obviously we're a homeschool family. We're an unschool family, so we already don't do things by the rules. So we have developed our own rhythm as a family here over time. I mean, this is year 11 for us coming up. So we've had time to work this out. Now, you still have to go according to, like Amy said, according to the way that your family functions. Because if you have a parent, like maybe dad gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes to work early, and he comes home early and he's completely exhausted and he goes to bed at like 9 o'clock, you don't want your kids to then be rambunctious at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and disturbing dad's sleep. That's a problem. So sometime, you know, for that family, maybe getting up at 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock to do schoolwork and get that stuff out of the way. That's the best way for that family to function. So if 8 o'clock in the morning or early is good for you, use that. If you have other things in your life that prevent you from really doing a lot of schoolwork during the weekday, use the weekend. I mean, you really should be able to plan according to the way that your family functions, how your family's routine plays out. That's all up to you.
And if your kids are wanting to get up, if you're having a hard time getting them awake at that early, if they're not already bouncing out of bed, there are some subjects that you can do with like less brain cells, like audiobooks. Maybe that's when you listen to a book for fun and while they're eating their cereal and having their cup of coffee or whatever they're doing, you know.
We do educational videos that way a lot.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. There's things. Yeah, there's things that you
my
can
little ones
do.
love Crash Course Kids.
Yeah,
and,
those are great.
Put that on during breakfast, and you know, it lets them, if they're not ready to like do school, they're still learning. They
don't have to think as much.
Right.
They still take in the information. They just don't have to actually engage and process it right then.
Okay.
Next, this kind of goes along with it. How do I not lose my mind with my kids with me 24/7?
Take a break.
Take a break.
Get out of the house.
Amy, you're probably the one to answer this because you're generally
Yeah, I
with
was
your
just
kids.
gonna. Watch my solo parenting video. Because even if dad is just at work 9 to 5, that still means you're solo parenting from 9 to 5. So, make nap time important. Make your wherever mom's sanctuary is. If you need the back porch to have your cup of coffee by yourself, that is mom's spot. Leave her alone. But it also in the same, your kids probably need a break from you too. So same thing, like your solo soccer playing, you know, allow that kind of thing. It's a two-way street. It's not just mom is the queen of the house and I get what I want. Your kids are important human beings too. I am the queen of my house. So no.
A really good way to not go crazy is to be part of a group like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For sure.
I mean, if you're having a bad day, that's the time that you post in the group. My kids are driving me crazy. My husband's at work. I spilled coffee all over my brand new shirt. I don't know what to do. I'm going to scream or I'm going to punch somebody and that's going to be bad. Post it in the group. Everybody's going to be like, oh, we have those bad days too. You'll be okay. Just keep breathing. And if you have somebody special, text them. They can be like, oh girl, I got your back. Ask somebody to pray for you. Call grandma. Better yet, call grandma to talk to the kids. Get them engaged with somebody else. They don't have to deal with you, just you all day long. If you need some breaks from them and they need some breaks from you, get someone else engaged in the picture. Even if your parents aren't close by, you can still call states away. Even in some significant others, if they're at work, they still can talk to you. Not everyone is not permitted to do that. So sometimes they're still reachable. If you need, like you have a teenage boy who's getting up in your face and you need to call and be a little firm and say, hey, you will respect your mother, call your husband, let him do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
This is probably not good to admit, but dinner time is important. It's scientifically proven that dinner time with mom and dad and good conversation is important for small children. Dinner time, not breakfast and lunch and snack time. So I eat dinner with my whole family, and there are times when they eat lunch by themselves and then I eat lunch later. And there's nothing wrong with that because we have dinner. Because that's what's scientifically proven, not all 3 meals and a snack. Because that would, just thinking about that makes me go a little batty. But just because you are there with them for an entire school day does not mean you have to be in the same room with your kids for the entire school day.
And you don't have to do school the entire day.
Right.
Take a break. If school takes you 2 hours to do with your 4th grader or whatever, break it up. Do a half hour here, do a half hour there. Send them off to their area to do their own stuff for a while. And when you're done, you're done. Let them go play. Let them explore their own stuff. If you're good with screens or TV, let them play their games. Let them chat online with their friends. Let them do whatever they want. You don't have to make every moment a family thing. You don't have to make everything a school time. It's life. It's life, and we learn through it. And for this little chunk of time that we're doing school, we're following some sort of a plan. The rest of the time, you're just learning on your own. That's fine. Right. The last question, it was a late one, and it was about actually my talk on the pandemic pods, learning pods, whatever they're called. It says, if using an online school this year due to the pandemic, should we only have kids in the same class in a pod? Is it okay to take my child to someone whose own child is in a different grade? I guess as long as they can be online with the different classes without interfering with each other, it should be all right. Okay. Yeah, basically, if you have, say, 6 kids, if you're all using Connections Academy, it's going to be easier on the host, who's the parent who's dealing with everything, to keep track of how the computer systems work. They don't have to be in the same class, but just sort of doing the same type of thing, just to keep things a little easier. So yeah, you might want 6 kids who are using Connections, or if you're using the online full-time virtual school from your school district, they don't have to be in the same class, but as long as they each have their own area, they're able to do their work. They can get together when they need to, if they can work on something together. I'm sort of thinking the teachers might even like that if they are in the same class, that they could work together. But that kind of depends on who you're able to meet and who needs that type of learning situation too. The kids don't have to be in the same grade. Again, as long as they're kind of doing the same sort of thing, it just makes it a little easier on the host. If the kids are sort of close in age, if you've got a kindergartner and a bunch of middle schoolers, it's going to be a little awkward, unless they're like siblings and they fit in and they can do their own thing, and the little ones can go play or do their own thing when they need to. So I did home daycare for about 10 years, and if you have a good mesh of kids, that's the important thing, I think. And then to make it easier on the person who's leading. And then if you're doing the hybrid school, where you go to school a couple days a week, and then 3 days a week you need somebody to watch the kids, that would be really cool if they were in the same class, just because they'd be together at school on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they'd be at Johnny's house doing their schoolwork. I think it would give some sort of stability to their things, but you don't have to. If they go to the same school, if they know each other, if you just live in the same neighborhood, that might work too. And that whole thing, it's going to be one of those things that's just going to take a little bit of time to figure out how to make it work, and some trial and error probably on families' part. So just take it slow and figure it out as you go. It's not the end of the world. They'll be fine. So
I think that's the motto for all homeschooling.
It really is. And with people who are looking into that, basically the reason they need it is for childcare, and for somebody just to do childcare while your kid either does school or just has fun and do school on your own when you get home. So it's a new thing. We don't know. I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope you sat through this and enjoyed it, had a little bit of fun with us. If you have any questions, please post, ask. We'd kind of like to keep things in the Facebook group instead of with private messages, just because there's so many other people who are in the same boat as you. You may feel like you're the only one, but we've had 500 people join us since schools closed down, and so somebody else is in the same situation. They may be quiet, but they're in the same situation. So use us, use what the information you can, lean on people for support. Whatever you decide to do is fine. Do what's best for your family.